The 5 actors who are credited in here, 3 of them are white, but the other one, the main the top billed actress is Oprah Winfrey, who's black, and then you got Mindy Kaling, who's Indian?
Yeah,
I think she's Indian. We don't. If we're wrong about that, we're not being racist, okay? We're just trying to say like
just
cool.
should have
diversity, yay! Yeah, that's what we're trying to say. What's going on, guys? Greg Alba here.
John Humphrey.
Warning you, I have hiccups right now. I don't know if I can stop just hiccuping, but I'm gonna do my best.
The more you focus on them, the sooner they're gonna go away.
Anyway, we just watched the Wrinkle in Time official trailer.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, that trailer was quite heavy and dark. Sweet dreams are made of these, playing over the images. Chris Pine looking depressed. I believe this is his follow-up role. Is this his follow-up Steve Trevor performance?
Yeah. Steve Trevor really flies through like a fold in space-time and comes out on the opposite side on this whole other planet. He's trapped, you know, he created the Tesseract. It's crazy. Yeah.
I feel like Steve Trevor's performances, because while he's charismatic in Wonder Woman, he's like super charismatic in Star Trek. He tones down the charisma stuff in Wonder Woman and is a little more serious, and now he's just really serious. I thought Chris Pine was going to be one of those actors who's always smiling, always super ridiculously charming, but it seems like he's embodying much more mature roles ever since like Hell or High Water, Wonder Woman, and now this. Yeah. He's not just some young man anymore. He's a fully grown adult with a beard and everything.
Well, I think this is a cool project for him to do, not only because of who's involved, but just, you know, given its status in literary history. Because it is a pretty notable book, and it is reasonably beloved. It won many awards, so this is a high-profile project. I'm surprised this book hasn't been adapted more times, actually.
I've never read the book, and I've never seen any of like the TV adaptations they've done.
The one TV adaptation they've done?
They've done several.
They've done one.
They've done several. A Wrinkle in Time is the second most adapted adaptation of any book next to the New Testament of the Jesus Christ stories. There might be more Wrinkle in Time adaptations than...
all those Toys, man, comic book spin-offs, novelizations of the book.
Universe building here. But you've actually read the book, so why don't you go into a little more detail of what you saw here?
Yeah, I mean, I read the book when I was younger, like, admittedly, but I did read it all the way through. I did a book report on it, and... did you
pass?
I think so. I believe I did.
That doesn't sound like it.
I tried to convince a lot of people to read this book, and every time I did that, I must not have explained it very well, because everybody just told me it sounded dumb. But it is kind of a hard book to describe, and it's kind of a hard movie to get across in this teaser trailer, so I'm not, like, losing my mind about it, but it did make me curious. It is one of those... I know a lot of people compare Madeleine L'Engle's work to, like, C.S. Lewis in the way that, like, Narnia is sort of... borrows a lot from Christian mythology and things like that. And A Wrinkle in Time has a lot of those big overarching, like, light versus darkness metaphors, but it is also sci-fi. There's a lot of interplanetary, you know, space-time travel. The 3 women, you know, Miss What's-It, Miss Witch, and Miss Who, they have these sort of powers of sorts that unfold over time. I also don't want to give away the story of the book, but they are imbued with something magical, as is pretty apparent in this trailer. You know, the trailer gives you a lot of images, and so it seems like it's showing you what the different worlds will look like. And that makes me excited. Like, they look cool. I'm certainly happy that Ava DuVernay is getting to do this kind of thing, too, because she seems like she's made a lot of important stuff. You know, she's made some documentaries. She made Selma, which is, like, a pretty big, important film that got kind of snubbed at the time that it came out. You know, it's kind of cool to see what she's doing in this corner, too, you know, branching out into the big blockbuster range.
I guess Chris Pine's becoming that male leading actor for female directors that hop from dramatic, much smaller films to huge blockbuster studio films. That's who Chris Pine is to fill these shoes for these female directors.
He created the Tesseract. The concept of a Tesseract is a real geometric concept. The easiest way to describe it is like what a cube is to a square, that's what a Tesseract is to a cube.
Gotcha.
So it's like an even cubier cube, and it's sort of like a 5th dimensional shape, so to speak, and that's where the sci-fi comes into this. There's a whole bunch of stuff about that, because their parents are scientists.
What I feel, from someone who hasn't read the book, and this is really my first glimpse at what the hell A Wrinkle in Time is. I know Wrinkle in Time's been a book that's been around for a long time. This does look like a Disney movie.
It does.
Like, specifically, I'm not talking about tone, but in terms of visual imagery and style, you know, you do, I think of like Alice in Wonderland or any of the countless live-action Disney adaptations that we've been getting over the years. It does have a similar type of production design and qualitative look to it. I really am getting the impression that the tone of it will probably be a lot lighter than what the actual teaser trailer is conveying here. I'm sure there will be dark elements. I mean, there's a lot of shots of Chris Pine looking rather depressed. The kids look like they're in some serious heavy situations.
Yeah, I feel like it gets heavier as it goes along because he's like imprisoned on some other planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Oprah the bad guy?
No, I would guess she's Miss What's-It. I think in the book she's like a neighbor of theirs who comes over one day. Like all these kids live with their mom together, and the story's mainly about the daughter and her little brother who's kind of a genius a little bit and who can sort of read minds. And they meet Miss What's-It at some point. She like comes by their house or whatever. And that's where the adventure spirals off. So the main three characters are, and I'm blanking on the names exactly, are the girl, Charles Wallace, the little brother, and then the girl's friend, who, you know, is kind of also an outcast at school. And there's a lot of that, as I remember the book, there's a lot of that whimsy at first, and then as the stakes get higher and the kids gotta learn adult lessons and learn that your parents don't always have the answers and that, you know, there's some things you gotta fix on your own, things get darker.
I guess what I'm really rooting for this movie, it's surprisingly rare when these classic fantasy novels get adapted into the big screen and fly by well with most of the mainstream audience. You know, like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter did it really well.
Yeah, they managed to satisfy both markets.
Yeah, but Chronicles of Narnia seem to keep dipping in quality. Alice in Wonderland was just a giant visual feast, and then I think even though the first one made $1 billion, I think there was still a disappointment factor that played into Alice Through the Looking Glass, showing that because that movie failed at the box office. And I think with this one, the visuals, yeah, they look absolutely amazing, and it's like I expect nothing less of a major studio like Disney to provide that. But, you know, for an average audience moviegoer like me, who hasn't read the book, I probably might enjoy it, but I know for book fans, they're really going to want a great story, and for that to be honored with its characters, they're not going to be as hung up on, like, the visual feast and all that.
Yeah,
and even as an average audience moviegoer, I can get bored of that, and I would care much more about the actual characters and the actual storylines that are happening. And so that's just my one, like, minor concern, only because of previous films that have been adapted before, and this is Disney who did Alice in Wonderland, you know?
I'm curious about this movie in particular because Alice in Wonderland is much more of an industry, you know, like there's the animated movie, it's more ubiquitous across culture, you know, there are toys and other things, and there are even video games that are based on Alice in Wonderland. I don't know how they're gonna pull this off, because the thing I don't get from this trailer is that, like, there are creatures and stuff in this story. Like, it gets pretty fantasy, at least at certain points.
Well, that last scene really had a Black Mirror vibe to me.
Yeah.
That was like major Black Mirror.
And, you know, I feel like this will be a balancing act, and I hope, you know, it's like they bothered to get Ava DuVernay to make this, you know, so I hope that this is just as concerned with its story as its candy-colored visuals, because you kind of have to do both, you know. It is sort of a broad sci-fi fantasy, but it is also very much about its themes and stuff. So, yeah, that's the stuff that I don't quite know about from this trailer, but nothing in this yet raises any red flags for me, I guess.
I'm excited that Oprah's back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if Oprah's been back. I haven't heard of Oprah being back.
I feel like she acts once in a while when the right situation comes along.
Well, this is easily, since she ended her show,
yeah,
this is easily the biggest film she's in, where she's really in the trailer. Like, you see her, she's talking, and you're like, oh, Oprah's a predominant character in this trailer. And I think that's really exciting. She's a really talented actress.
Yeah.
The director of this, she's a black director too, right? Oh, that's really cool.
It's a nice victory in and of itself for both women and people of color. You know, like, it's... And I'm excited for them. You know, I'll admit, like, I hope that this goes well for that sake, just because, you know, like, there's an unfair skew when, you know, if something like this doesn't do well, you know, like, given all the things that are involved and some of the more progressive changes they have made with it. Not that I think it really specifies what race everybody is in the book. I'd never thought about it when I was a kid anyway. I definitely hope that they can nail this with some poise.
There seems to be a lot, and it's understandably so. Some people might not find it a big deal. They don't get what the big deal is about when you hear about, like, female directors directing a huge studio film.
The core of this story is pretty feminine. Like, a lot of the main characters are female.
I respect that the fact that they're getting female directors in the studios now to do these much bigger movies.
Yeah.
Because some people might not think that's a big deal, but it is. Because
Totally.
there's a reason why when Patty Jenkins did Wonder Woman, like, that's a huge deal, because it's usually male directors who do the big Hollywood films. You know, so, and even like with the Disney movies, it's like Jon Favreau, Tim Burton, Kenneth Branagh, like they're all like male directors who are doing
white dudes.
white dudes, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Just fine, like they're talented white dudes. It's nice, especially right now, that it's, you know, that much more important because it's not the norm. Like, it is definitely a good thing.
I love that trailer, these movies that are about kids. It's like, or even Alice in Wonderland. You know, I think the main actress isn't actually 15. I think she's an adult. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My point with Alice in Wonderland is no one really cared to know who that actress was.
You're just, you know, nebulously teen to 20s.
Yeah. Even with Chronicles of Narnia, everyone's like, Liam Neeson's the line. You know?
Yeah.
And in here, I'm like, I remember the brief kind of thing I know about A Wrinkle in Time is that the main characters are the kids.
Yeah.
They're not even credited on the trailer.
I know, I was just about to say, like, and I get it, like, you know, we know these other names better, but the main, the heart of the story.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to me. And also the writer of this, Jennifer Lee.
Jennifer Lee.
She wrote Wreck-It Ralph. She worked on the story for Zootopia. She wrote Frozen, which is, you know, a lot of people love that movie. I personally don't, but a lot of people think that's like an amazing film. It's cool that the behind-the-scenes people are females, and you said yourself that there's a lot of feminine qualities to A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that, like, they're working on this big... It's like a big female production.
Yeah, and I'm
Oprah Winfrey's the lead.
And I'm excited for that. And to me now, I'm just wondering how much the other side of this is going to play in. Just the big expensive fantasy movie part is going to play into that, because you know I don't know how they're approaching this, because the novel wasn't like wildly successful when it came out. So I don't know.
It's a classic.
It is, yeah. It's definitely regarded to be a classic, but it's not in every young adult's mouth right now. And so I guess just as a person who pays attention to the movie industry, I don't know from this trailer if they're going to try and make this some kind of YA flagship, or if they're just going to do this story. You know, and that's something that I always got to be a little curious about, just because it would be easy for this to fall into that.
I think it should. I think any chance you get to make a franchise, do it.
Yes, every time.
And every time. Set up sequels, post-credit scenes, announcements before the movie is out. That's what I like for every single film. Why am I going to watch it if it's just one movie?
I know, right? Why would I invest my time into something that's going to end? You know?
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. You can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. John Humphrey on Twitter and Instagram, social media manager of Blumhouse, and check out our exclusive perks and rewards over at patreon.com/TheRealRejects. Would love to have you there.
Yeah. Mwah.